So we get a lot of questions about recommendations for books, magazines, and online sources for beginners. Now, it's a lot of things to cover, but there's 3 basic books that I recommend. The first is 101 Essential Tips for Bonsai. It's a little book. It's really inexpensive if you buy it online, but it's chock full of all the good basic information that you need to start with. Now, it kind of glosses over some of the more important concepts in bonsai, but it gives you all the facts, and that's where you really need to start. I highly recommend getting the book. I really recommend reading it and keeping it even as you progress, because it's something great to fall back on. Now, once you've read that, the Bible in the bonsai world is called Bonsai Techniques 1 and 2. Now, they're both written by John Naka, who was the greatest bonsai artist in living history, perhaps even the greatest living artist in the last 100 years. Now, in his first book, Bonsai Techniques 1, he basically outlines everything you need to know. The rumor was that he started it based off of his teaching notes, and that he thought that this was everything that any bonsai artist should really understand. Now, the only thing in this book you have to ignore is everything that talks about bonsai soil. Simply put, we no longer do soil that way anymore. He talks about getting things like river sand and muck and other things like that, and basically we don't use soil that way. We have a video that talks about soil. I highly recommend looking at it. Now, the second book, Bonsai Techniques 2, is everything he thought that he forgot in the other book. It's about twice as big and twice as heavy. The way you need to read these books is read them as if they were college textbooks. Read them slowly, read them deliberately, don't try to read it all in one day, and do not gloss over things or space out. Keep them as references, reread them every year or so. It really helps your understanding of bonsai. You will read it once and think of it in one way, read it again, and it will completely change the way you look at bonsai. Now, when it comes to magazines, the best thing to do is find your local publisher. Most states or regions seem to have a go-to. In California, the Golden State Bonsai Federation publishes something called Golden Statements. Now, Golden Statements is great because it teaches you some basic concepts. It'll have an article about azaleas, an article about miniature trees, an article about proper tool cleaning, but it also outlines everything that's happening in the bonsai world for the next couple of months. Now, one of the things that's good about these kind of magazines is they're regional, so the information is directed directly at you. Getting a magazine from Japan, getting a magazine from Italy, they might have good articles, but they're also going to be regional. The weather is going to be different, the species are going to be different, and they're not very helpful. Which kind of leads me to the next point about other books and publications, especially online sources. If you have an online source, you have to trust that it is true where it is published. And that doesn't necessarily mean that someone who talks about azaleas who lives in Japan is going to be the same as someone who is trying to work on azaleas in Washington State, Oregon, Texas, Nevada, and so on. A lot of times when it comes to online sources too, you have to consider that the person may not be putting in all the information that is needed. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. There are, of course, universal truths. Certain trees only can live in certain hardiness zones, and the basic scientific information there can be trusted. But when it comes to you have to do this to get it to germinate here, keep in mind that only works if you get it to germinate there. Now, when it comes to other books, a lot of times a bonsai artist will publish a book based off of his own collection. So he may only work with flowering crab apples, or he may only work with dwarf Japanese junipers, which means it's great information there, but it lacks the basic information about wiring and pruning and watering, which is why you should definitely start with John Naka's books. I hope this information is helpful, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like the video, find us on Facebook. You'll find links to everything in the description below. If you have ideas for future videos or have questions, put them in the comments section. And if you feel like it, visit our online store. We've got trees, pots, t-shirts, all kinds of cool stuff. Alright, I'll see you next time.